everyone, and welcome to Playwright, a podcast about creating and sharing new ways to play. My name is Ryan Hamann. You can call me H.
And I'm Ryan Quintal. You can call me Q.
Happy New Year. We made it.
It's 2020.
I think we were a bit early when we celebrated Christmas 2 weeks ago, but, that's all in the right spirit. But yeah, it's officially 2020, unless we're getting our dates mixed up again, which is entirely possible. But for all intent and purposes, so let's just call it the future now.
I love that. I love living in the future.
We're in another decade, so all of my best of lists can't include Bloodborne anymore. I just can't wait to see what the next 10 years holds for us.
Let me ask you this. So now that we're truly through and, people have listened to all the Kane and Rince end of year stuff, I'm sure all of you have, and you've gotten through every possible release and second of it. What for you, because we weren't together in any of the Kane and Rince end of year stuff, what was like 1 to 2, 3 standouts for you that you just were so thankful for in 2019?
Well, I put out kind of a best of list on Twitter, kind of my top 10 of the year. But if I have to narrow it down to any particular moments that really stood out, might not be always towards the top of my list. But one of the things I really appreciated was the parallel dimensions level in Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's a great race through the city with these kind of magical twins that are doing strange things to reality all around you to the beat of the music, and it's quite synesthetic and quite magical. I really appreciate that.
It was a weird year for me.
Standout moments.
Yeah, it was a strange year for me just because I don't feel like I started off the year by finishing a 2018 holdover in Red Dead, and I don't know if there was a ton, and I'm finishing, or I'm starting. I guess I'm finishing 2019. Sorry, everyone. This takes place in the past. I'm finishing 2019, finally picking up the joysticks on Control. If you listen to that segment of the end of the year stuff, I was just so even more sold on it after that conversation with people. But it was kind of a slow burn year. I found myself consistently enjoying games like Resident Evil 2 and Luigi's Mansion and Mario Maker and all these different little things that were just dropping throughout the year. Fire Emblem was this year too, right? Division 2, I had a lot of fun with that, but I think I'm going to be really hard pressed to have a definitive game of the year for me.
I mean, for me, it's Outer Wilds, and I feel like everyone that I recorded with who played the game kind of reached the same consensus. So if you haven't spent your time venturing out into space just yet, then it's definitely worth a look.
It's definitely, it has Ryan Q written all over it.
Yeah, definitely. Get in there.
All right. I will make it a mission. Hopefully I get it done before I catch up with the date that the listener hears this. And so, see, now when you listen to this episode, go back in my Twitter timeline and find out if I actually did it. This is kind of weird. I can future check myself. What a fun concept.
We'll see how much fun you're having in a couple weeks when you don't play Outer Wilds. All right, let's pitch some new video games. I'm going first today. And what I have is an MMO where people play as germs or bacteria and infect basically giant people. Regular sized people, but on a giant scale since you're so small. But basically it takes hordes of them to defeat the white blood cells and to damage the human's organs. Think about it like a reverse Dynasty Warriors, where you are playing kind of the horde of enemies trying to press through. Every germ is controlled by a bespoke separate individual, and everyone is kind of working towards infecting the maximum number of people. So we'll start the clock there.
So does this have the ability to maybe infect someone and then go through what a virus does do, which is mutate or kind of change yourself in some way?
Yeah, potentially. Maybe there's ways to, if you can implant yourself in different organs or something like that. Maybe once you've broken through and you've actually gotten into a body, then you could become more powerful and then start to lead charges. We usually try to, I think the natural propensity of video games is to reward people for doing something well with a power-up, but the disadvantage of that is that you're only making the people who are better at the game more, giving them more tools in their belt to be even more advantageous versus those who could really use the help. You are taking away some of the help that they very much need.
Right.
But in this case, it's not competitive. Everyone's working together, so it kind of makes sense for people who have been through the muck and the mud to have more capacity to lead the charge next time.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're able to sort of map out for other players what it's like to hunt out and infect things.
Yeah, or you're just given kind of better weapons, and so you naturally fall to the front of the lines. It's not something that you really see a lot in video games, is like being a not very powerful character trailing behind somebody else who has all of the weapons, unless you play like MOBAs or World of Warcraft type of games where you have like a tank that is tanking all the hits, and then you're the one that is casting magic in the background or something like this.
That's interesting. So I wonder if you and all of your fellow players collectively can link up or something, and somehow, like, if there are different parts of species that you're infecting, there are an opportunity to, by linking up with another player, sort of mutate your own genome, take on a different form to battle different parts of the body, like physically link yourself. That could be kind of neat.
Maybe there's different types of effectiveness like you would get in Pokemon. So if you mutate in one way, then you'll become super effective at like entering the body through the toenail area. Maybe you need like some sort of a nasal or mouth opening. Maybe you need to get in through the skin, or maybe you just need to hang out on the hands for a while until the person touches their face. I don't know.
Hang out on the hands for a while. That sounds like a piano player thing. Just hanging out up here on the hands. I'm trying to think of mechanics where you could, like, what does like Action Weekend look like here? What does it look like to jump in and have like maybe timed events where everyone's trying to mass infect the same thing, and like the top 10% of players like make it to the area that they have to infect or something?
One of the things that I'm having a bit of trouble conceptualizing is that when I think the interesting thing about playing either as or against germs and disease in video games is that it's naturally multiplies. Whereas if we're doing this kind of MMO thing where people are playing as germs, hopping from one person to the next, you're not necessarily multiplying unless you are infecting a person, leaving behind, a germy residue that does the work for you while you're there, and then moving on to something else. You don't get the same feeling of spreading as you would get in like a pandemic or something like that. And I don't really know how to solve for that.
I wonder if you did more of a spore-esque thing where like you're becoming a different creature, you're becoming larger, maybe you go from like maneuvering around very quickly and stuff with a single joystick to like at your maximum size, you have like both fingers on the triggers and you're manipulating two joysticks, and it feels like a full hand involved in like moving you and manipulating you around.
We can start to work in all of these back buttons that the video game controllers are getting now.
I know, yeah.
Actually, that would be kind of an interesting to build a game where maybe you are like a microscopic creature moving around in three-dimensional space using all of the like back buttons and stuff on a controller, like little cilia on the outside of the cell membrane.
That's kind of interesting. So, and then you could have a whole maybe different process or something. I do like of making it through cell membranes. I love the idea of kind of having different parts of a body or different species be like different types of, not mini games, but like different types of gameplay to infect it. Like maybe as you're like moving up the digestive system, you get like a Gears of War, like cover based, like run and dash to the next set of cover, while like all the things that are moving through the digestive tract are like trying to, I guess I'm talking about poop at this point, but trying, it could be food, trying to like hit you. So you're avoiding things, but then other times in the bloodstream or something, you have sort of more swimming controls or yeah, I think you could do something with that.
I was just thinking back to, what is it called? Mr. Mosquito or something like that. The game where you play as a mosquito kind of buzzing around this family's house. And I just like things at that scale. But, you know, if there are other ways we want to take it, then I'm certainly open to that too.
I never played Mr. Mosquito. So is that like, I imagine that's you like literally designed to be on the scale of a mosquito?
Yeah. And there's this family's home that you live in, and it's up to you to acquire a certain amount of blood without getting swatted. And so you kind of move in and you can kind of socially engineer people as well. You can turn on the radio to distract somebody while you buzz into like certain zones on their body that are more susceptible to having their blood drawn. And then, you know, just trying to get in and get out.
What do you think maybe there's also something where you are managing like levels or things where you have to jump from species to species. So once you kind of go and infect the critical system, you almost have a little bit of an escape game to get through. And then once you're through, you can kind of jump and you have like a float or a fly or something to connect you to the next person.
Yeah. You know, a lot of diseases have trouble crossing species, but when they do cross species, they become kind of extra powerful. So maybe there's some sort of a balance of power that we can work in there.
Yeah, that's interesting too. So maybe the method that you use or the way that you infect the first person, that controls like what sort of powers you'll have on the way out of that person. So you have to like infect the right system and then like, okay, now I can be airborne, or now I am transmitted through a liquid or something. So you can kind of find ways to chain together multiple species infections too.
I think potentially the most interesting type of infection could be the ones like the fungal infections that take over the brains of ants and stuff like that.
Oh man. Oh, and then you could see the species like transform. Those always freak me out when they're like, this is actually an infected species. And you could really do some weird graphical, very The Last of Us spore stuff with that.
Yeah. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, a little fear it's healthy.
So we're coming up on time. Let's go ahead and call that one there, and let's give it a name. I do like something that you said earlier on, perhaps unintentionally calling it Mass Infect.
Oh, hey, we've just started 2020 outright. We're in the 20s now. Oh my God, that feels weird. That feels weird to say.
Yeah. I guess the world and myself are going to be in the 20s for about a 10-day overlap.
Oh, that's nice. Happy birthday. Happy early birthday.
Thank you. Earlier at the time of recording, of course.
Yeah, sorry, audience, you missed it. Where were you?
Let's hop into whatever you're going to be pitching today. What are you bringing us?
Yeah, so this week I've got something a little bit, I don't know if simplistic is the right word or what, but I have been thinking about a game where you can create the sort of social dynamic of people all sitting around a campfire telling a ghost story, but using the sort of improv mechanic of you only get to tell so much of the story before you have to pass it on to the next player. I don't know if we're going to do conversation trees. I'm just going to kind of let it be there and figure out what we do with it.
Okay. And we'll go ahead and start the clock. So this would be fun as kind of like a multiplayer thing where perhaps there's some sort of a Dead by Daylight type of thing towards the end where after you get done telling the story about this monster in the woods, then you actually have to escape from it. And all the things that the people layered onto it, like Jackbox style perhaps, can either maybe even blindly. Maybe you have to select. You have to select like 3 things on your phone, and there are some abilities and things that cancel each other out, and some that make the other ones more powerful. And then you have to survive and escape this monster that you've collectively created.
That would be cool. And so if you set this on the backdrop of actually telling that story, like everybody's gathered around a campfire, as you build the monster with your words, you could see like a superimposed, or not a superimposed, but like in the background, the monster physically kind of coming to life, and you're getting a visualization of the creature. And it might encourage the next player to kind of be a little bit more gentle in their description of the thing.
Or it'd be fun to, everyone kind of locks in their answers immediately, and you don't get to see it until the very end. And then by that point, you're thinking like, oh man, what a crazy thing we made. Like, what is this going to look like? And you kind of want to just take a moment to look at it before running away. But you know that if you stop to look, then it's going to get you.
How do we imagine the mechanics of describing the monster and building the monster would actually be? So I know you would have to maybe give a predetermined template of options, but I don't know if it gets doled out through like a radial wheel or like a conversation system.
Yeah. I'd imagine if perhaps each player gets, they have like 3 choices, things they can add to this monster, and whether it's on their phone screens that they can do kind of secretly among just to themselves, or if everything is on screen and they get to kind of make secret selections out of the 4 face buttons like you would when you're selecting Madden plays, just to not show what the opponent is choosing.
Oh, okay. So now I wonder if you could also be rated on like continuity. Like you don't want necessarily, once a narrative starts, you don't want the next person saying, oh, and it also had wings or something. Maybe there's a way to kind of create that sort of social agreement or handshake inside of this construct of saying, okay, well, we've already established it's too heavy to fly, so we're like wings option becomes out, and like the act is almost slowly filtering what the monster would end up being. I guess that might end up limiting your stuff, but it's probably more realistic.
Or if you say contradictory things, only one of them can be true, and so instead of the monster having 9 possible modifiers, the contradictory ones knock at least 1 off the list. And so, you can potentially get away with a more easy to avoid monster if you do say things that are discontinuous with the things that have been said before.
Got it. And then you could do like a rating of, there's more point potential if your monster is harder to escape from.
Potentially.
I like the idea too of like maybe phase 1 is like describing the monster, and everybody gets like, you go around the campfire twice as everyone gets to pick their descriptors. It was like, it was scary, and it was, goofy and all of that stuff. I mean, maybe you pick one of those, and then then the next round you're saying, and legend has it that and then you're kind of describing powers or whatever, or like past things that it did. And then you're kind of into like capability or like its AI behavior, that it hunted down children, or it only swooped in at the last moment. And then as you're like actually building those things, then you're creating a creature. And then you could do almost like, instead of doing a chase, you could even do like the campfire melts away and you enter into almost a tower fall, like 4-person arena, where you all have to battle the monster, and it's like 2D pixelated. You could do it really stylized.
And perhaps based on, maybe you choose from a selection of characters and you know what characters your opponents are, and so you can try to produce a monster that you can get away from but your friends can't.
Oh, right. So everybody goes in with a hidden power, and everyone like chooses their hidden power, their class of character, but you can't tell from the design of the character what class they are. And instead you have this conversation that shapes everything. And then it slowly, as you're trying to push it, you're trying to figure out what your opponents maybe aren't. So you can like make it more tailored to defeating them.
Yeah, you can get a sense from the first couple rounds what the person is trying to avoid or what direction they're trying to push the monster into being.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And like each person gets to choose one or two each of the behaviors and the modifiers and the powers, and now you get yourself or the descriptors even, and then now you get yourself like seeing like, oh, they want it to be big. All right, maybe they're good at battling larger creatures, or they have a bonus based on creature size, and then you get yourself in a situation where you're like, all right, I want this thing to be a tiny little flying pest.
Maybe there's different settings as well, and different types of monsters that would be there, whether you are in the woods or whether you are in a cornfield somewhere or even in the middle of a city.
Oh, and those are like the battle arenas?
Yeah, and can kind of affect the different types of monsters. It's based on the urban legends of those areas.
Oh, that's cool. You could also do stuff where, like, depending on how many monsters you've defeated, you get more or less influence over how the monster turns out. Mm-hmm. So, like, first it applies all the descriptors, and then it applies, like, some sort of win or performance bonus and, like, a pie chart, and that, like, it goes very sort of computery and mathy for a hot moment, and then it all ends up like weighting it and churning out the monster.
So what do we do to make all of these monsters feel designed as opposed to something that a computer is just randomly spitting out? You know, what can we do to make them memorable?
Good question. I wonder if there's something to tying them to all, like, you have to start, the location that you start in is based on some sort of monster mythology, right? And then you have one that's like, you're all telling tales in the laboratory, and that ends up being like Frankenstein's monster. But like, what flavor of Frankenstein monster? You know, this is the true like horror movie anthology they tried to put together that they couldn't really ever do. Mm-hmm. The cinematic universe of these monsters.
Maybe there's different ways to combat certain types of monsters. And so if you're dealing with a vampire, you know, regardless of the power sets that it has, it's very different to deal with it than if it were like a haunted doll.
Huh. That's interesting. Like, are you saying there that, like, you have to do something to, like, surprise with that monster, right? Because, like, Frankenstein's going to come with its own, like, set of known behaviors?
Possibly, but I don't know how its type would be determined. But anyways, we're out of time. Let's go ahead and close that one down. And let's name it. Name our fears.
Ooh, I mean, that's pretty good. Name your fear.
Because I guess that's what you're doing, essentially.
Yeah, especially if, like, that's what you want to do to make it easier to defeat. Like, you want to keep it away from, you need to know your fears so that you can name the opposite of them.
All right.
Name your fear's pretty good. Name
your fear. I think that's a catchy title, too. It's something that a video game would actually be named, unlike most of the things that we pitch.
Yeah, you could put sell the DLC, get Freddy in there, get Jason in there.
Let's go over to the community. Let's hear something from Randanomite, who says, "Hey guys, with the utter disrespect Nintendo show to the creepy uncle known as Waluigi, I was thinking he deserves his own line of games. As far as I'm concerned, nothing would fit better than a dating sim. I would include dialogue options and a match 3 type of minigame to date various unknown Mario characters like Boo and a Goomba, etc. I'm pitching a kid-friendly version of Honey Pop, the best dating sim out there. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work." And we'll start the clock. I really appreciate Super Mario Maker 1, back when you can do amiibo costumes, which I'm very upset they took out of the sequel. It was a great addition to the game, but yeah, all gone in Super Mario Maker 2, which is really too bad. But one of my favorite thing was seeing people's Waluigi courses, which developed their own kind of like design language, so to speak. They were all meant to be kind of depressing and recursive, kind of like somebody going through like a panic attack or something like that. So you would wind up like being funneled into a maze that had no way to escape from or something like that. And all of this just kind of like putting in mind the fact that Waluigi as a character is just like is
it's kind of nothing.
Trapped in his own head and nothing ever goes right for the guy, you know?
One of the things, so from what I gather from, I've never played Honey Pop, but and that's HUNIEPOP, right? So anybody that's trying to Google and follow along with it, it looks like it's also a bit of a puzzle game.
Yeah, so that that particular one is let's see, it's a mix between kind of a traditional dating sim where you are kind of getting to know things about the people that you're interested in dating, and then when you're actually on dates, it's like a match 3 game, it seems. So you have to play to do actual tasks to make the date go well or not. And that's kind of a neat spin on things, actually. It's there is a certain amount of keeping the plate spinning on dates where you can be a great conversationalist, but if you have to think about everything that you say for 25 minutes and consult your notes like you might in other dating sims, then that's not going to end up working out. You got to be kind of on your toes the entire time,
Right. I like, here Randanomite is talking about having this be a kid friendly version of this. What if, like, rather than a dating sim, like the idea is to just hang out with, like, go on, platonic hangouts with these Mario characters, and then you enter into a scenario where you're opening up like things that just friends would do, like, whether it's playing a sport together or, something that might feel like a little bit weird if you tried to do on a date. But instead, now you're in this world where you can kind of like take Mario ice skating, and like you learn that like Mario is afraid of the cold or something, anyway. And then you kind of like build up and you just get to learn more about all these different characters who you in our case, maybe been spending, 20 plus years with.
Yeah. I think the thing about dating is that even though it feels bad for a date to not go well or to be rejected for a further date or something like that, it does feel more kind of forgivable and understandable than if a friend hangout doesn't go well. If I go on a date with somebody and I call them back and they say, I don't really want to see you again, then I'm like, okay, I get it. He or she's just not into me. But like, if I hang out with a friend and then later, give them a call and they just say like, I don't want to hang out anymore, then it's like an existential crisis. It's like, well, they don't even want to go to the movies or anything. Like, what do you mean you don't want to hang out?
Yeah, maybe because there's such a large cast of characters in the Mario verse, what you can get is a system where just like the next time they become available on your calendar to hang out becomes pushed back or something. So it's not that they don't want to hang out. It's just that they're going to hang out with other people, or they're going to kind of prioritize something like that. And then what you're doing, right, is you're seeing like how frequently you can get people to sort of hang out with. I mean, like how much you can say, okay, I'm going to be consistent and hang out with this person time and time and time again. And by doing so, I'm going to like be building good friendships and relationships with them.
What other characters within the mushroom kingdom would be interesting to hang out with? I'd love to, whether it's going on a date or hanging out with Professor Egad. He seems like a real party starter.
Why did I know that you were going to pick Egad? You talked about Egad like 2 episodes ago or something like that.
Probably true.
Have you got a crush on Egad?
Far from my mind.
Yeah, it's okay, by the way. He seems like an interesting guy. He's very inventive.
Yeah,
I feel like
resourceful.
Right. If you have different not sort of styles, but I guess different like abilities per the characters, right? Like maybe Peach can bring you on a tour of, the Mushroom Kingdom or like Peach's castle and stuff. And so like there's, depending on the friend that you're hanging out with, depends on like the activities you have access to. Like Peach obviously being the princess of the Mushroom Kingdom has a lot of access. So she can kind of go anywhere and do anything, but like she might also be mobbed by little, Toad fans or something like that. So, she's like your celebrity friend, and like Mario's your like the friend that you call to help you move, right? He's got his overalls on, he's ready to do work, and Luigi's the friend that you call to bust ghosts,
maybe just to help you kind of vacuum up and tidy up the place a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's really smart. And like Toad, you can go like spelunking together with him, and like you can go on underground adventures, and I think like depending on who you're hanging out with, right, what the activity you're doing, you can gain little items and trinkets that would work well as gifts for other friends.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're hanging out with Toad, you go spelunking, right? Maybe you get a jewel or something, you can give that to Daisy, and then Luigi helps you find some coins that were under your couch that you didn't know you have. And of course we all know Wario is just absolutely obsessed with coins. As many coins as he can get his hands on, the better.
And you could play Dance Dance Revolution with Mario. He has there was a precedent for it.
You can go watch an Olympic sport with him as well.
Yeah, of course. You can go check in on Sonic, see how they're doing.
I like the idea too of this is a good game to paint a soft side of Bowser, right? Like hanging out with Bowser involves a lot of cheering him up. He thinks nobody likes him. He's always like acting out. Maybe it's, he's your troubled friend. He's the friend that you need to talk out of kidnapping Princess Peach and trying to take over the Mushroom Kingdom once again. So you can actually, I think, like have the cast of Mario characters be a pretty fair representation of the different types of people you might encounter day in and day out. They're almost a Sesame Street-like cast when you think about it.
I've always been curious what Rosalina would be like in any kind of social situation, being essentially this god with limitless power over the universe.
Yeah, I guess she would be maybe your spacey friend, right? Like somebody who's very not down to earth and like always thinking magically, but maybe that makes her easily fooled by things or tricked by things. And so in a way you need to really look out for her because she does not relate to, very practical world things. I assume in this scenario that you get to play some version of yourself as well. So one of the things I kind of love about that is having something where you get to like make maybe at the beginning of the game a Mushroom Kingdom designed version of yourself. I've always wanted to see what like I would look like. Can I make what would I look like as a Mario character? I think it would be a really fun designer.
Yeah, that would be really fun. There's not really, despite there being two games called Super Mario Maker, we've never really had the chance to make a Super Mario. But anyways, let's call that one and let's give it a name.
Is this like Super Mario Super Friends?
Yeah, it's a spin-off of the Super Mario Super Show, of course. We can even borrow the credits theme.
Super Mario Super Friends. Do we bring in dating at all? By the way, we didn't even get to touch upon, like, if you do match 3 stuff and all that kind of thing, like, Dr. Mario is already a game. It's in there. We can, like, we can very easily include.
So every time you hang out with one of your friends, you're just taking pills the whole time?
Yeah, you gotta go to Waluigi to get the pills. I mean, that's there's no two ways about it.
Waluigi runs a rehab, and it's just like every weekend, it's like, why do they keep coming back here?
Yeah. What do you think he's got in those flowers? It is called the Mushroom Kingdom too. Oh my God, it's all clicking together for me. Friends, hang out. I say I'm going to hang out with friends. I'm going to have...
I'd say mushroom friendom, but that doesn't really rhyme or make much sense.
Mushroom friends. Oh, okay. Are you ready for this? We go for more of a pull from Dream Daddy, and we call it Pipe Dream or Pipe Dreams.
I do like that. That's a nice way to spin it. All right, Pipe Dreams. That comes from Randanomite, who submitted that to our website, playwrightcast.com/pitch. You can submit your own video game idea by doing just that, or by emailing us playwrightcast@gmail.com, or tweeting us @playwrightcast.
Special thank you to PROTODOME for another great year of using Hello World, our theme song off the album Blue Noise. It's a great album. Go give it a listen. If you haven't yet, there is literally hours and hours and hours and hours, like 24 hours or a dozen hours at least of video game content for you to listen to with the Kane and Rinse end of year stuff. So if you've got a long flight back home or you've got a long road trip back home, now's a great time to crush it. You got a long
flight to Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's right. Twice. You're going to Australia and back. This is a great opportunity to listen to the Kane and Rinse end of year stuff. And if you're like me, if you have a spouse that is prone to falling asleep in the car, what a wonderful opportunity for you to listen to it. What else? Is there anything else in 2020?
Oh boy. Anything else in 2020? I mean, register to vote, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's going to be important this year, huh? Jeez. I feel like we already went through an election on this show, but I guess we didn't. We started after it all already started. So.
Oh man, it just feels like it's been,
I know,
decades.
I know. Yeah. Happy 2020, everybody. And we're in the 20s now. It's legitimately cool. I think we should all celebrate it. We can say we're back into the swinging 20s. So let's pitch some games and swing ?
Nice. Let's do just that.
Give me a miniature pitch, man. Make it all good.
All right. Let's kick off the 20s with a 20s themed pitch. How about a game where you have to run a ooh boy, is the Speakeasy nightclub the right decade or is that the 30s?
I don't know.
Oh no.
There's tassels for sure.
I'm not just going to say you have to run a tassel dispensary. Regardless of the decade, you do run a speakeasy and you have to keep it undercover from the cops.
Awesome.
All right. We'll see you next week, everyone.
Bye.